Hobby Warriors. Welcome to my Let's Play Infinity Defiance core campaign video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Glad you're here, and if you're one of my longtime subscribers, welcome back. This has been a video that's been a long time in the making. I started working on this right away as soon as I got my Infinity Defiance pledge over the summer. I've been hard at work over the past couple of months getting everything painted up. If you're curious and interested in seeing how I painted up the miniatures for the game, there is a playlist I'll go ahead and put up in the cards. But this is a long video, so without further ado, let's just get right into it. So to set the stage, Infinity Defiance tells the story of a Special Forces combat unit who is trying to save the human sphere, which is sort of the galactic human domain in the Infinity universe. The human sphere has recently been under attack by their first contact with an alien species called the Combined Army. And the vanguard forces of this army, specifically the Shazvasti Expeditionary Force, has been wreaking havoc all throughout the human sphere. So the governing bodies of the human sphere get some intel that, one, they're only dealing with a vanguard force and they're struggling this much to repel them, but then two, that the main body of the combined army is preparing to build a wormhole gate that will allow them to bring the main part of their forces to bear against the human sphere, and there's almost no way that humanity would be able to survive that happening. So what they decide to do is to create 3 Special Forces teams, get them all trained up, send them through the wormhole so that they can then destroy it on the Combined Army side. Now, the Shazvasti Expeditionary Force catches wind of the plan, and they go ahead and sabotage the missions. So they execute 3 perfectly timed strikes against the launch facilities. And the first 2 facilities are successfully destroyed, but this game tells the story of the 3rd facility, the crew of the Defiance. So the very first mission is the Defiance crew being ambushed inside their preparation facility and them making a hasty escape so that they can continue the mission and save humanity from certain doom. So because this is a Let's Play video, it is a little long. I take the time to try and explain every action that I'm taking, why certain dice rolls are being made, etc., etc. Future videos in this series will not be this long. This is sort of the learn to play video, if you will. The other videos in this series will much more just focus on the gameplay, and I'll use visual cues to kind of provide that explanation where needed. I won't actually take the time to verbally explain things. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the game, and I'll see you on the flip side for the outro. Hey there, Hobby Warriors. We are down at the game table, and I've already set up the first campaign mission per the instructions in the campaign manual. So I'm going to go ahead and put a picture of the campaign, the mission map rather, and the legend up on the screen so that you can see the deployment areas as well as where our consoles are located, We've also got some security doors that we're going to need to open. We've got respawn spaces for enemy reinforcements to come in, as well as some loot boxes, and then the starting positions for the Nox Spec Ops that are going to start the game on the board. So just coming around on the table and showing you everything. Here goes the crew all deployed in their starting spaces. And we got 2 Nox Spec Ops on the next tile. And then we're not really worried about these rooms until we can get through the security door right there. Now I'm going to use this area of the table, sorry about the glare, to show all of the enemies that are active. So right now it's just the Nox Spec Ops. The AI deck will be right here. This will be the enemy initiative deck. We've got the round counter as well as the alert level. And starting out on this mission, the alert level starts at 1. There's no special effects. And then the round counter obviously starts at 1. We've got our loot cards and our damage cards. And then over in this area, we've got our heroes with their initial equipment. So we'll start with Caden. He's got these rippers that use both of his hand slots, but he's really good in close combat. I can see you really never wanting to give him a gun. Everyone gets an auto med kit, and then he's also got some tactical armor that's going to help beef up his defense rolls. And then for his starting specialty, I gave him close combat weapons. So he gets an extra die whenever he makes combat rolls if he's equipped with a close combat weapon. Now moving down to Uma, she comes stock with 2 pistols. She also gets an auto med kit, some tactical armor, and then this precision helmet that gives her 1 extra range, which is pretty awesome. And then with her special abilities, saturation attack, she gets bonus attack die, which is awesome. And then if she's equipped with 2 light weapons, you just get a bonus success. That's pretty sick. So now coming over to Jazz. Jazz gets no armor, so we don't want her in the thick of it. But she comes with a stun pistol if she has to use it. But she's our team hacker, so she's got a standard hacking device and then 3 programs. She also has her remote so that she doesn't have to put herself in danger. And then we gave her the hacker specialty, so she gets a bonus die on her hacking rolls. And then lastly, we have Kang, and he gets a heavy shotgun, which uses up both of his hand slots, but that's some pretty nice damage. Rolling 2 blue and getting a free success. Also has an auto med kit. We gave him reinforced armor, mostly because his starting armor requires him to have heavy infantry combat. So I was a little up in the air as to did that force him to take this specialty first, but I was okay playing it that way. And then we've got some ally cards that'll come into play later in the mission. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start the game off. Alright, so as you can see here, a game round consists of 3 phases. So there's the start phase, which we've already done. We've prepared the initiative deck. We already know there's only 1 AI card for the 1 unit that's on the table. And we've updated the round indicator to round 1. So we're going to move straight into the activations phase. So we're going to alternate activations starting with the players, and then an enemy unit will go, and then the players, so on and so forth. And then last will be the end phase. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the activations phase. We're going to go ahead and start with Kang. Okay, so whenever a character activates, you can use two of these actions from this list, and you can choose any combination. So you can move and attack, you can move and hack if you were able to hack, you could equip, you could interact with something, or you could take a special action from your character card or one of your accessory cards. So what I think we're going to do with Kang is we're going to go ahead and move and then attack. So now coming over to his character card, he's got a movement value of 5. So we're going to come over here and move him 5 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now, if you see this hex with the blue lines, you can move across that, but it costs an extra movement point. But since he didn't have enough movement, he's going to stop right in front there. And now, for his second action, he's going to go ahead and shoot at one of the enemy in front of him. So now, the range on his shotgun is 1 to 5. And now, when you count range in this game, range 0 is your character space. So then you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So both characters, enemy characters, are in range. So I think to start out, we're going to go ahead and attack this Spec Op there. So now Kang is going to roll 2 blue. So here's Kang's roll. Alright, so there's that. Now the Shazvasti Spec Ops gets a black and a yellow for its defense. Right there. So we'll grab a black and a yellow. And we'll roll that. Alright, so Kang rolled 2 successes and a block. And the Shazvasti rolled a blank, a block, and an exclamation point. Now, there's something in this game called switches, where you can spend symbols for extra effects, but for this attack round, no one actually has either enough effects or has a switch. So, the Shazvasti's 1 block will block one of Kang's successes. So then Kang still has a success from this. And then his shotgun automatically gives him another success. So since the Shazvasti is out of block symbols, it's going to take 2 damage. Alright, so we'll just put those 2 damage on the first character slot for the Spec Ops card. And that's Kang's activation done. So we'll go over and flip his activation counter so that we know that he already went. So now it's time for the Shazvasti Nox to go. So there's only 1 card in the initiative deck right now, so we already knew that it was the Spec Ops. So they're going to get an AI card. And this AI card's going to tell us what to do. So now there's a blue side and a red side. The blue side is what you use whenever your enemy is in their blue state. And the red side is what you use whenever they're in their red state on the back. And normally the only way to go into red state is when you're at maximum alert level. So for right now, the Shazvasti is going to execute all of these blue commands in order. Alright, so starting with the first instruction, and I'm going to go ahead and throw descriptions of these symbols on the screen. But the very first instruction is acquire target, and he wants to acquire the target of the person with the highest aggro. So in the previous clip, I did forget to mention that whenever you successfully deal damage to an enemy character, or you activate a console, you get an aggro token. So I went ahead and gave Kang an aggro token. So whenever you acquire target with an enemy, what that essentially means is that it wants to move into maximum range of its weapon. But if it's already inside that range, you just ignore that instruction. So acquired target does nothing. The next instruction, it's going to shoot at the person that it can see with the most aggro, which is going to be Kang, because the range of its combi rifle is 1 to 8. So we're going to go ahead and resolve that attack. So the Spec Ops is going to get yellow and orange and a free success. So here's the roll. Alright, so Kang's basic defense is a blue die, but then because of his reinforced armor card, he gets to add 2 black to it. And we've got our defense roll there. So now, with these are called face-to-face rolls. So what actually ends up happening, both people in the roll could possibly take damage. So what's going to happen here is the free success that the Spec Ops gets, Kang's going to block with one of his defense dice. Now, Kang got a success on his roll, and the Shazvasti is going to block that with its defense die, and nothing happens there. Had the Shazvasti not had that defense die, though, even though it initiated the attack, it could have potentially taken damage. So now we're going to move on to its next instruction, which is acquire target, which is going to be Kang, and it gives them another aggro. So we're going to take another token and put that on Kang. So now we're still on the Shazvasti's turn. We're going to redo everything we just did on this instruction card with the second member of the unit, because this unit has 2 people. So this Shazvasti, it can't acquire target because it's already in range. And now it's going to shoot at Kang. It gets a yellow and an orange and a free success. And then Kang gets to roll his defense again, which is 2 black and a blue. Alright, so the free success that the Shazvasti gets is blocked, and then the one that it rolled is also blocked, and nobody takes any damage. Alright, so that is the end of the activation for the Nox Spec Op unit. So now this AI card goes into the discard pile, and their activation is done. So now we go back to the player characters, and we're in a special situation where there's no more enemy that can activate this turn, and Kang's kind of blocking a door there. So what I think I might do is, so Uma's specialty card allows her to shoot through character spaces. Normally characters would block line of sight, but for her, being extra mobile and precise, she would be able to treat Kang as if he was not there. So I think we're going to go ahead and activate Uma next. So her movement is 6. So let's see if we've got enough movement to get her behind Kang. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. So that was her first action. And now, let's see, her precision helmet will give her +1 range. And now, even though she's equipped with 2 weapons, you still only get to attack with 1. So, since she has 2 pistols, it doesn't matter which one we use. And she's going to up the range to 5. So let's see, she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So she can shoot this spec op that's up in front. So that is what she is going to do. So now for her attack roll, she has her pistol. So that's going to be an orange and a blue. But then with her passive saturation attack, if she's equipped with 2 light weapons, which she is, she gets an extra yellow in her roll. And then with Trusty, if she's equipped with 2 light weapons, which she is, she gets to add a free success for each blank face that's rolled on her dice. So she is potentially really, really deadly. So let's go ahead and roll her attack, and let's see what we can do. That is an awesome roll. The Shazvasti defense is going to be a yellow and a black. So the block... Oh, actually, before we resolve, we do have a switch on her pistol that we can use. So she's got 2 exclamation points that she can trade in for an extra success. So we'll just mark the extra success with another die. And then, so let's see. So the Shazvasti will block 1 success, so that'll go away. But then we've still got 3 successes here that it can't block. And this is Shazvasti number 1. And it's only got a maximum of 4 health. So that is actually going to kill him. Remove him from the board. So now Uma gets an aggro. And her activation is done. Alright, so we still have Caden, and we've got Jazz left to activate. Neither one of them can really do anything super effective this turn besides move into position. So since there's no more enemies, we don't have to worry about alternating activations. So we're just going to have both of them do a double move so that they can get into position for next turn. So at the end of round 1, this is our board state. We've got the heroes charging up with our heavy armor infantry right up front. We've got 1 more Nox spec up on the board. We've got 1 dead. And we haven't gotten to the consoles quite yet. So now our round is going to move to round 2. And we'll start the second battle round. Alright, so we're at the top of round 2. We've only got the Nox Spec Ops in play, and they don't have enough reinforcement points to bring in the Nox Hacker quite yet. So the Spec Ops card goes into the enemy initiative deck, and then they get assigned a new AI card. We flip over our activation tokens, and so now we're going to start the turn. So I think we're going to go ahead and start with Kang again. So again, he's got a movement of 5, and we're just going to move him to there. And for his second action, we're going to go ahead and attack. So again, for his boarding shotgun, we get 2 blue and a free success. So rolling his 2 blue, and then for the Shazvasti defense, gets a yellow and a black. And again, so we got that free success that's kind of hanging out there. So the black, we'll cancel that. Whoops. We've still got 1 success, and the Shazvasti has no more blocks. So it is going to take a damage. And now he's also got an ability where once per activation, when he inflicts damage to an enemy, you can take an aggro token from a character and place it on your card. So I'm going to go ahead and give him Uma's aggro token, and that will be the end of his activation. Alright, so enemy activation, lo and behold, we flip a Nox Spec Ops. Let's see what its AI tells it to do. So now it's going to try and acquire target of the most damaged character. Now, none of the characters have damage on them right now. So since it can't do that, it's going to default to the nearest, which is going to be Kang. And it's going to try and shoot him twice because he has the highest aggro. So let's go ahead and do the first shot. It's going to be an orange and a yellow. So it rolled 1 success, but it also gets a free success. So now coming back over to Kang's defense, it's going to get that base blue and then 2 black. Oh no. So Kang has rolled no successful defenses, which means that's going to be 2 damage that get through on Kang. However, Kang's specialty card, Reinforced Armor, allows us to take 3 damage, up to 3 damage, that were inflicted, and place it on this card instead of on Kang. And that damage is considered as not being inflicted. So Kang would have taken 2 damage, but we're going to take that 2 damage and place it on this card. Alright, but thanks to the AI card, it's going to shoot Kang again. So it's going to re-roll these dice. And that's good. That's only 1 success from its free success. And now Kang gets to roll his dice. And he gets the 1 block that he needed to go ahead and cancel that free success. So he's not going to take any more damage. And now the very last instruction is to acquire the target of the most injured, and then give that target a aggro token. So again, nobody's injured. Kang is the closest. So Kang is going to get another aggro token. And now, just to point out while we're here, there is a max aggro attribute. Kang has the highest out of the whole group of 8, but bad things happen when you go over that attribute. So right now Kang is at half capacity, and we're gonna have to watch his aggro going forward, so we might need to start spreading aggro around the group. But that is the end of the Nox Spec Ops activation. So the AI card goes in the discard, and it's time for another player to activate. Alright, so given the state of the board, I think we're going to go ahead and activate Uma next. So she is going to slide into position just behind Kang. So 1, 2, 3. which is within her 6 that she's allowed to move, so that's perfect. And then with her specialty card again, being allowed to shoot through characters, she's going to go ahead and shoot the Shazvasti Spec Ops with her pistol again. So she's going to get an orange and a blue and a yellow. And here's her roll. And the Shazvasti is going to get a yellow and a black. Right, and there is its roll. So the Spec Ops does not have any switches. We don't need to worry about that. Uma does not have enough successes to activate her switch. However, thanks to her trusty ability, the blank dice that she rolled gets turned into a success. So we'll flip that to a success. So now here's what's gonna happen. So the Shazvasti rolled 1 defense, which will cancel that success. And we've still got 1 success left. And so we're going to go ahead and do 1 more damage to the Shazvasti. And it's got a health value of 4, so he's a little banged up. And because she dealt damage, she is going to get an aggro token. And her activation is done. So now next, I think we're going to go with Caden, who gets to move 6 spaces. So let's see, we can get him to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now since he's right next to that supply crate, we are going to go ahead and use his second ability to go ahead and interact with the crate and open it and get some loot. Alright, so this loot container is worth 2 loot cards. So we'll come over to the loot deck. 1, 2, and let's see what Caden got. So he's got double action ammunition, which isn't going to be too helpful for him. And he picked up smoke grenades, which actually might be helpful. Now, in his backpack, he's only got 2 spaces, and he's got his auto med kit. So we can take the smoke grenade, but he doesn't have room for the double action ammunition, so that will get discarded. And since this loot box is now empty, you flip it over, and it stays on the board and counts as an obstruction. But no one else can now get loot out of that box. Alright, so last to activate here will be Jazz, who actually has something interesting that she can do this turn. So she's going to go ahead and do her first skill, which is going to be move, and she can go 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now for her second skill, she is going to use her hacking device to attack the Spec Ops. So the way hacking works, you get a range, so 0 to 6, and you can hack enemies that have a biotech defense or a keyword that states that they're hackable. So she can go ahead and hack this spec op. And now looking through her programs, it looks like the one that we want to use instead of just her base hacking skill is going to be Skullbuster. So now whenever you're hacking, you get the base die from your hacking device. So she gets a yellow, and then she also gets a free exclamation point. And then you also apply any effects from the program. So she gets another yellow, and then she has some switches. And then because of her specialty card, Hacker, she gets an orange to her attack roll as well. So she's going to roll 2 yellow and an orange. Alright. And then the biotech defense of the spec op is going to be 2 black. Alright, it rolled 2 defenses. So now the enemy doesn't have any switches that can be applied. But coming over to Jazz, so one thing, debugger, we can re-roll a die that rolled a blank face, which we do have. Oh, so that is actually awesome. So now with Skullbuster, we can spend 2 exclamation points to nullify a block, or we can spend 2 exclamation points to blind our target. So now we've got a total of 4 exclamation points. So what we're going to do is spend the first 2 to nullify this block, and then spend our last one and our free one to nullify this block, which means we've got 3 damage on the table that the spec op is going to take. And since he's already got 2, that's going to kill him. Alright, so that's going to bring us to the end of the round, and that's going to trigger adding in some reinforcement points. So as you can see here, whenever a unit is eliminated, as in you remove the last miniature from its card, you go ahead and give the enemy a reinforcement point. So they're going to get 1 reinforcement point for us killing both of those Nox Spec Ops minis. And now the other thing that you do when an enemy is eliminated, their card goes into the queue of available enemies at the back. So the next enemy that would be eligible to respawn is going to be the Nox Hacker, and then the Spec Ops would come in after them. As you can see, the enemy are all cleared off. We're moving on up, so we're going to go ahead and start round 3. And now, since there are no deployed enemies, there's no initiative deck. We're not doling out AI cards. Go ahead and flip. And so I think we're going to go first with Jazz. And we're going to go ahead and take her first action to move her next to this console. And then her second action will be Interact, but she's going to use her hacking device. And I think we are going to go ahead and use Picklock. So we're going to get to add an extra yellow die to her hacking roll. So we're going to get 2 yellow dice and a free exclamation point to try and hack this console. And just so that you can see what we're trying to do, we need a block and an exclamation point to open security door 1. There's a potential to gain some software samples, and then we need a success to release the magnetic clamp on our ship. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that roll. Alright, and here is her hacking roll. So she's got an exclamation, and due to her trait, we get to re-roll. Alright, so now we're going to spend Jazz's results on the console. And now this was actually the perfect roll. So we're going to be able to clear absolutely everything from the console inputs. So we're going to use her block symbol and one of her exclamation points to go ahead and complete the first input, which lets us unlock security door number 1. So that gets removed from the table. Now we're going to use her hit symbol to unlock input number 2, which is going to release magnetic clamp A. So we flip that to the green side. And then we're going to use her 2 exclamation points to unlock the third input. And she's going to get a software sample that she can spend after the game to potentially learn new hacking abilities. Right, and to show that she learned that sample, we'll go ahead and give her that token. And that's going to be her activation done. Oh, no, I forgot to mention, since she did an interact with the console, she does gain an aggro. And now that that door has been unlocked, we actually are going to move into phase 2 of the mission. So a couple things are going to happen now. So the alert level is going to move 1 space. And now at alert level 2, at the end of the round, the enemies will get an extra respawn token. So that's no good. But thankfully, no other ill effects will happen. They do, however, get a respawn token immediately because the mission says so. And now, once we hit phase 2, we deploy Nox Leader immediately. So let me get those set up. Alright, so I actually went ahead and did everything that the campaign manual instructed me to do. And so now I'll go ahead and go through that. So the 2 Nox Leaders are deployed here, and Agnes Ferreira is deployed here. Now right now she's neutral. If we interact with her, she'll become an ally, and she'll join our active crew and be able to help out in the mission. We also had to deploy 2 Cadmus Shazvasti over here. And this token has been on the board the whole time, but this is another neutral character, our HVT, that we're trying to escort off of the installation. And again, just like Agnes, once we interact with her, she'll become an ally. Now, whenever you deploy units in the middle of the activations phase, they immediately get assigned AI cards, and then you shuffle their initiative card into the initiative deck. So even though we were all in the clear and there were no enemies, now there are 2 units that are going to be able to activate during this turn. And actually, it's their turn. So we're going to go ahead and flip, and it's the Cadmus unit that is going to go. So we will flip their AI card. So blue is highest, yellow is lowest. So they're actually going to try and charge the person with the highest aggro, which is going to be Kang. Now, they've got a movement characteristic of 6, so we're going to go ahead with the first model, and he's going to go and get to there. Now, the rules state that any enemy that has a hacking ability has to use that ability if their target is hackable, and Kang is unfortunately hackable. So it's going to go ahead and use its hacking attack, which it's going to get a blue and an orange. And we'll go ahead and roll that. Ugh, so it's actually got a really, really good roll. And then Kang, instead of using his armor, he gets to use his biotech defense. So the biotech is the sum of all of these symbols. So unfortunately, even with him being hackable, he only gets 1 black die to defend with. This is going to hurt a little bit. So now the Cadmus, whenever an enemy has a switch on their ability, they're forced to use it if it will do something to the target. So it is going to spend the exclamation point to stun Kang, and then Kang is going to take 3 damage. Alright, so with that 3 damage coming in, I went ahead and applied 1 to his reinforced armor. And then he's going to actually take the other 2, and then he also gets a stunned marker. So he is not in great shape, and that is only the first attack. We're going to go ahead and do the second attack now. So here's the Shazvasti's hacking roll. Mercifully, it's not as good. And here is Kang's defense roll. Nice. Got a block. So what's going to happen here is Kang's block will cancel the success. And the switch can't trigger because Kang is already stunned. Alright, so the last instruction is it's going to go ahead and charge Kang again and then hack him. So it's going to move right next to Kang. And it's going to try and attack him one more time. Here's the roll. No successes. And Kang's defense roll, even though it won't matter. Alright, so now we go with the second one, who's going to try and do the same exact thing. So this is absolutely brutal. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now, even though Kang is obstructed and the Cadmus doesn't have line of sight, hacking attacks don't require line of sight. So it's going to go ahead and try to hack him 2 times. So the first roll, no successes. The second roll, oh boy, that is a beastly roll. Let's see what Kang can get for his defense. He does get a block. So he'll cancel 1, but then he's still going to take 2 more damage. And again, the switches won't activate because he's already stunned. Alright, and now for that last instruction. This Cadmus is going to move as close as he can, which technically would be either one of these spaces. I'll leave him there. And then he's going to try his attack one more time. So that's great for us. He rolls no successes. And again, the switch can't happen because Kang is already stunned. So that is the end of their activation. But Kang is hurt pretty badly. He is already at 2/3 of his maximum health. So now we have to decide which hero is going to activate next. Alright, so my thought process here is I could go with Kang, and with him having that shotgun, there is a chance that since the enemy are bunched up, he could end up damaging both of the miniatures. However, with him already being kind of damaged, I don't want to put him at risk. Now with Uma can shoot through Kang's space, and she doesn't have any damage on her. So I think that might be the safe bet, is to go ahead and let her let loose. So we're going to go ahead and activate Uma. And I'm pretty happy with where she's standing. I don't necessarily want to move her anywhere. So we're just going to go ahead and get right to shooting. So her first action will be to attack. So she's going to get an orange and a blue and a yellow. And that's it. Let's go ahead and roll it. Alright, that is not a bad roll at all. So let's see, the Shazvasti's defense for the Cadmus is just a blue die. So let's see what they can get. So they got a hit. So they don't have any switches, and Uma cannot activate her switch. She didn't have enough. So she is going to have one block the Shazvasti's hit, and then she's going to hit the Shazvasti twice, doing 2 damage. Now for her second action, we're going to attack again. Alright, that is a good roll for Uma. And let's go ahead, Shazvasti defense. It's actually not a bad roll for them. Now this time around though, we do trigger Uma's switch, so we get to add an extra success onto our roll. So one of Uma's defenses will block the Shazvasti defense. The Shazvasti's hit. The Shazvasti's defense will block one of Uma's successes, but then Uma has the success from her switch. Alright, there we go. So she has the success from her switch, and then she had rolled 1, so she's going to do another 2 damage. So that's 4 damage total, which is going to leave that Cadmus on 1 wound. Right, that was not a bad go. I was hoping to be able to do a little bit more work. But I think now we're going to go ahead and activate the enemy. So the Nox leaders are going to activate because they're the only card left in the initiative deck. And so let's see here. They've got acquire target to the highest aggro for their first action. And they move 5. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now they would attack, but there's nobody in range. So now they're going to try and acquire target again. which means that they're going to move again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then they give an aggro token to the closest character, which is going to be Kang. And now the second Shazvasti is going to do the same thing. So first, they're going to attempt to acquire target. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's no one that they can shoot. So next, they're going to acquire target again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then they're going to give Kang another aggro token. So mercifully, no damage done, but Kang is pretty beaten up, and he's got a lot of aggro. 6 aggro right now out of his 8 maximum allowance. So he could potentially be adding some reinforcement tokens to the enemy at the end of the turn. But now it's our activation, and we need to clear out these Shazvasti. So I think it's time to go with Caden. We've got them all nice and bunched up. So what we're going to do with Caden, he gets bonus successes on his attack rolls whenever he moves. So we're going to have him first move. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that he's adjacent to both of those Cadmus models. And now we're going to attack with his Rippers. So we're going to get an orange and a yellow. And then we're also going to get our 2 free successes from Berserker Charge. So let's go ahead and roll those dice. So Caden's attack roll, and the Cadmus get a blue dice for defense. Alright, so Caden got enough to activate one of his switches. So we've actually got a choice here. Sorry, that's why I was delaying. So the top switch allows us to inflict a damage for free onto an adjacent target. And then the bottom switch allows us to gain an extra threat, but we add 2 more successes to our roll. Now, we've already got enough damage on the board because with the 2 successes, the Shazvasti will cancel 1, and he only has 1 health remaining. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and activate the first switch, essentially by spending that die. So we're gonna do 1 damage to the second Cadmus that hasn't taken any damage yet. This block die will eat 1 of Caden's free successes. This block die will block the success of the Shazvasti. And so that Cadmus will take 1 damage. So both of the Cadmuses are going to take 1 damage, which is going to kill one of them. Alright, so that guy is dead. You get 1 damage, and you go away. Alright, so the enemy have expended all of their activations for the turn, and that just leaves us with poor Kang. So we'll go ahead and I think we're going to double shoot and forego his movement this time. So for that shotgun, he's going to get 2 blue and a free success. So let's go ahead and roll that. And he's going to target the Cadmus right up in front. So his roll is rather lackluster, unfortunately. So he's just got the one free success, and then the Cadmus gets 1 blue for its defense, and it gets a block, so nothing's going to happen there, unfortunately. Second action, we're going to go ahead and do it again. That's a better roll. And the Cadmus defense. Alright, so to resolve this, the Shazvasti's success will get blocked by one of Kang's blocks. Kang is going to spend 2 of his blocks to go ahead and add another success to the pool. And then he also had his free one from using the shotgun. Now the Shazvasti will block one of those, and that's still going to leave 2 damage on the roll. Now Kang does have other switches. I will spend an exclamation point to go ahead and stun. Oh, you know what? I forgot that Kang was stunned. So let's see what happens with that. So Kang actually loses one of his successes. So let's rethink this. So the Shazasti actually blocks that. Kang blocks that. Kang gets the inflict the stun trait on that miniature. And we'll still get 1 damage through. Alright, so that is Kang's activation done. He loses the stunned status as soon as it interrupts one of his successes. Now, because we're at the end of the round, and we are at alert level 2, the enemy get a free reinforcement token. So now, first, the enemy will spend these reinforcement tokens to try and deploy a unit from their available units. So we've got 3 tokens, which is just enough to bring out the Nox Hacker. The first one deployed closest to the characters on respawn point 1. The second one deployed on respawn point 2. So now they've spent their reinforcement tokens and they don't have any left. Now if they had just 1 more, they could have respawned that Cadmus that we had killed, but they didn't have enough. Alright, so at the bottom of round 3, we've got Kang that's taken a little bit of damage. The rest of the team is looking pretty good though. We've got a table full of Shazvasti that we have to get through. Got our HVT that we still need to save. And Kang's aggro is looking pretty full. He can only take 1 more before he starts adding to the reinforcement pool for the enemies. Alright, let's move on to round 4. Alright, so we're at the top of round 4. We've reset everything. Got new AI cards on all the enemies. The initiative deck is all good to go. Alright, so for our first activation, keeping in mind that our goal is that we need to get to this console and get that second magnetic lock unlocked, as well as save our HVT. So I think what we're going to do first is activate Jazz. And we're just going to try and zoom her into position. So we're going to do a double move. And we'll leave her down here right next to the console. And then as her free action, that she has special because of Billy. We're going to go ahead and deploy Billy. And we're going to deploy Billy right next to her, next to that console. And now with the synchronized rule, remotes have to activate either immediately before their owner or immediately after. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to activate Billy, and we're going to have him use his first action to interact with this console. Now, whenever you interact with someone that doesn't have a hacking device, you just roll 1 blue die. And so we get a shield, and let's see what that'll get. Alright, so that shield was actually enough to complete our second input, which flips our magnetic clamp. Alright, and whenever you interact with a door, or a console rather, you do get an aggro, so Billy will get an aggro for that. But we're going to go ahead and use his second action to do it again. And we got another shield, which unfortunately doesn't do anything for us. And Billy will get a second aggro. Alright, so now it's time for the enemy's first activation, and it's going to be the Nox leaders. Alright, so let's flip their AI card. And so they've got acquire target on the closest, then they have shoot the closest, and then they have acquire the closest and give them an aggro. So we'll start with number 1. The closest is going to be Caden. They're already in range with their combi rifles. So second instruction, they're going to go ahead and shoot. So they get 2 yellow and a free success. Thankfully, that was a horrendous roll. And now Caden's defense, he gets a blue die standard, and then he gets a black for his tactical armor. Caden survives. That last instruction is going to go off though, and Caden's going to get an aggro. Now the second leader is going to do the same thing. It will acquire target. Caden's already in range, so it's going to go ahead and roll. It's 2 yellow and a free success. And again, a horrendous roll. And Caden's defense, he gets the block that he needed, and also ends up getting a damage back on the Shazvasti. So the Shazvasti actually ends up taking a damage there. Alright, so with our next activation, we need to make sure that Jazz has some protection. So I think we're going to send Caden down to lend her some support. So he is going to take a move. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To put him right next to that hacker. And then he's going to go ahead and attack. So he's going to get a yellow and an orange. And then because he moved, he's going to go ahead and get 2 free successes. So here's Caden's roll. And now the Nox hackers get a black and a yellow for their defense. So the Shazvasti cannot activate a switch, and then Caden could activate one but doesn't need to. So Caden has a total of 3 successes, the one he rolled, and then his 2 freebies. one of which will get blocked. So that Nox hacker is going to take 2 damage. Right, so enemy turn, next activation is going to be the Nox hackers. So let's see what they're going to do. So first, the hacker is going to move toward the closest. It's already right next to Caden, so it's not going to go anywhere. Now it's going to try and attack the least damaged. The least damaged person that it can see is Caden. So it's going to go ahead and try and shoot him with a combi rifle. So it's going to get 2 yellow and a free success. Caden's going to get a blue and a black. And actually I made a mistake. So with Caden, totally forgot about his trait. Gets an extra blue to all of his combat rolls as long as he is in close combat range. So that's going to be a big help for him. So now to resolve this, the Shazvasti has a free success and then 1 on the dice. Caden has 2 blocks, so we'll go ahead and nullify those. Caden got 1 success, which gets nullified by the block, so nothing happens there. Now for the last instruction, it's going to go ahead and try and move toward the closest again, and it really can't because it's already there. Well, the second Shazvasti is going to do the same thing. Already counted it out. Caden is the closest, and it has a move of 5. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then it costs 2 points to move through an occupied space. So it can't actually go anywhere else. So let's see, if it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, it'll actually go this way to get to him. That would get him closer. And now it's going to take that combi rifle shot again. So 2 yellow and a free success. Oh, that's a good roll for them. Caden's defense dice, though, was not a bad roll. So Shazvasti got a total of 3 successes. Caden got a total of 3 blocks. So again, no damage. And now it's going to go ahead and try to move closer to Caden. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and activate Uma in hopes that she can clear out that remaining Cadmus to prevent them from activating. Since they're the only initiative card left in the deck, if we can stop their activation, we can prevent Kang from getting really, really beat up. Alright, so for Uma's first action, we're going to go ahead and have her attack the Cadmus. For defense, the Cadmus just gets 1 blue. Not a bad roll. Alright, so let's go ahead and resolve this. So for switches, now Uma has enough exclamation points to activate her pistol switch twice. So that's going to give her 2 more successes. So now for the Shazvasti, they don't have a switch. So their 1 success is going to get blocked. 1 of Uma's successes is going to get blocked. So that leaves her with a total of 4 successes. Now the Cadmus only has 3 HP. So using her specialty card, I'm going to go ahead and store 1 of the successes and then do the remaining 3 damage to go ahead and kill this Cadmus. Alright, so the Cadmuses got moved over to the available deck, and because they didn't get a chance to activate, the enemy gets a free reinforcement token. Right, and now for the last activation of the turn, it's going to be Kang. Now, what I kind of want to do, I don't want him trapped over on that side of the board. So I think what we're going to do is just go ahead and double move. So it's going to get to go a total of 10 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he is going to zip over to this side of the board and go ahead and start securing our exfiltration point. And that will be the bottom of the round. So now, because of the alert level, the enemy gets a free reinforcement token. Now, they don't have enough to respawn any of the units from over there. And none of the units that are in play have reinforcement slots. So they're just going to bank those 2 reinforcement tokens. And that'll be the end of round 4. Alright, so we're at the top of round 5. And here is the current board state. So we have Uma over here by her lonesome. Kang, who has the most aggro, has run over to the Stalker shuttle. I'm kind of hoping that these Nox leaders end up with AI cards that will make them chase Kang and kind of leave Uma alone. We've got Jazz over here ready to hack that console. Caden's having a grand old time in the middle of a melee. And so let's get started. So we're going to go ahead and assign our AI cards. And now our first activation, we really can't afford to play around. So we're going to go ahead and activate Jasmine. And her first action is going to be to hack the console. Alright, so again, whenever she's hacking, she'll use her hacking device, and that'll give her a yellow die and a free exclamation point. Because of her trait, she gets a free orange die, and then the picklock program gives her another yellow. So let's go ahead and roll her hacking roll. And now with her debugger program, she gets to go ahead and re-roll any die that had a blank face. So we re-roll that one yellow, and we get another blank, which we can't re-roll again. Alright, so let's see if we can apply these to any inputs. Alright, so this was actually exactly what we needed. So her free exclamation point and one of her successes will unlock input number 1, which unlocks the security door off of the map. And then we've got 2 more exclamation points on the roll, which unlocks input number 3, which gives her another software sample. Awesome. So now she's got 2 software samples that she can spend on upgrades at the end of the mission. Alright, so now before we move on with her second action, the campaign book tells us that whenever we open security door number 2, we immediately read security door 2 opens. So the alert level is going to move up 1, and we're going to deploy the Guilo. However, bucking the normal rules, they do not activate until the next round, so that's a small mercy. Right, so we've deployed the Guilo, And our alert level goes up to level 3. So in addition to getting a free reinforcement token every round, anyone who interacts with a console gets 2 aggro instead of just 1. Thankfully, Jazz interacted with the console prior to that, so she only gets 1 for that, and that's Jazz's activation. Oh, I'm sorry, I lied. Jazz still had 1 more action. So, given that everything's unlocked, all the doors are open, I think we try to get her back toward the Stalker. So she has a movement of 6, and I think we're going to go ahead and move her toward the Stalker. So she's going to have to spend 2 to move through an occupied space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's going to be her activation. But now Billy is going to go, and he can move 8. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll move him here, 5. And then his second activation, he's going to interact with our hostage. And that's going to move the mission forward. So now we've got the Vera Xandar ally joining our team. And because she's been activated, we're all ready to try and make our escape. However, once you interact with her, the mission kind of goes sideways. So let's see what that's about. Alright, so whenever you interact with Vera, you read the Vera text. Oh great, so Agent Sheeskin is heading toward the cargo bag. That's no good. After that, the alert level is going to move to position 4. The enemy get a free reinforcement token, and you have to deploy Sheeskin. Alright, so the alert level moves up to level 4, which the new bonus that the enemy gets is that at the beginning of the turn, they now activate first instead of the heroes. We've already added our extra reinforcement token. We've deployed Sheeskin in her designated deployment space. And because the campaign booklet doesn't tell us to deploy her in any special way like the Guilo, she gets deployed via the rules. So she can activate this turn. Her initiative card has been shuffled into the deck, and I forgot to give her an AI card, but there we go right now. Alright, and it is now, unfortunately, the enemy's turn. So let's see who goes. Thankfully, it is not Sheeskin, it is the Nox Leaders. Alright, so here's their AI card, and this is not what I was hoping for. So they're going to acquire target, the hero with the least amount of damage. Now, they're already able to see Caden, who has no damage, so they're not going to move anywhere. And their next instruction is to shoot Caden. So we'll go ahead and get those dice ready. Alright, so with their combi rifle, they are going to get 2 yellows and a free success. Now, they've got a switch where, because we've got at least 2 Nox units on the table, they can spend 2 exclamation points to go ahead and get an extra success. So they're going to spend their 2 exclamations, And they'll have an extra success. Caden's defense is going to be a blue and a black. So he got no defense, so he's going to take 3 damage. However, the Nox is going to take 1 as well. And so now for that last instruction, they're going to shoot Caden again, and then they're going to withdraw, which they move as far away from Caden as possible. So they're going to go ahead and shoot again, which is 2 yellow and a free success. Which they're going to get their switch again, which that's going to hurt. And Caden gets his defense dice. You got 1 block. So the Shazvasti is going to have 3 successes, and Caden will block 1, and he's going to take 2 more damage. Now, since Caden did do a damage during that first combat roll, he will get to displace 1 space, which he'll go there. And then that Shazvasti is going to move as far away from him as possible, which is going to be this way. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And end up there. Now, the second one is going to do much the same thing. However, now we've got a little bit of an interesting situation where the least damage is now out of sight. So let me see. Oh, no, I lied. Well, actually, technically, they don't have line of sight to Jazz. So let me see what they'll do. Hold on one sec. Okay, so in the resolution steps, which I'll throw up on the screen, whenever they don't have line of sight and there's more than 1 character that meets the criteria, the first tiebreaker is aggro. And Jasmine has 3, and Uma's got 2. So it's going to try and go after Jazz. It needs to move to get line of sight, though. So it's going to move right there, which will give it line of sight. Now, the combi rifle, again, 2 yellow and a free success. So just the 1. Jazz gets 2 black dice to defend and gets no successes. So she's just going to take 1 damage because the Shazvasti can't activate their switch. Right now, and for the second shot, it's going to get its 2 yellow and a free success versus Jazz's 2 black. Alright, so Jazz blocks 1, and that was the only one it had, so Jazz takes no damage on that second one. And then it's going to try and move as far away from Jazz as possible. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it will end right there. It was a fairly brutal activation. But let's see if we can turn things around and try and get out of this station. Alright, so next we're going to activate Uma. Because she is in a very precarious situation, surrounded by 4 Shazvasti, one of which is Sheeskin, and we do not want to deal with that. So her first action is going to be to move, and she can go 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then for her second action, I kind of think we just want to get her as far away from the enemy as possible to try and make them potentially waste some activations. So we're going to go ahead and move again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Which will get her to the door of the Stalker Shuttle. And it'll be the enemy's activation next. And it is She-Skin. Alright, so she is going to try and charge and shoot or stab the person with the highest aggro 4 times. Even though she was assigned an AI card, you always use the instructions on their initiative card if they're there instead of the AI card. So now her movement speed is 7. So let's go ahead and get her moved. Alright, so at the end of her first move, she made it all the way to here with her superior speed. And then her second instruction is to shoot the person with the highest aggro, which is going to be Caden. Now, Caden is... she's got a range of 8. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or Kang, sorry. Kang is out of range. So therefore, she's going to take the next person in range that has the highest aggro. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So these two are both in range. And unfortunately, Jazz has more aggro than Caden. So she... oh, wait. Sorry. Jazz is blocked. So she can't see Jazz. So she's going to shoot Caden. The Spitfire is absolutely disgusting. Rolling 3 orange dice. My god, that hurts. Caden gets a black and a blue to defend. Alright, so the Shazvasti She-Skin has a switch for 2 exclamation points, which lets her add a extra success to the roll. So she's actually got 4 successes. Caden only rolled 1 defense, so Caden is going to take 3 damage. Alright, that was only the first instruction on her card, so she's going to do it again. Moving 7 spaces, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Getting right in Caden's face. And now, since she's close enough, she's gonna try and stab him in the face with her explosive close combat weapon. Alright, so here's her roll. Absolutely brutal. Caden's defense roll, and now his specialty card will come into effect, giving him an extra blue die. He only manages to get 1 block. Alright, so to resolve this roll is absolutely demolishing. So with her close combat switch, for every exclamation point, she just directly deals 1 damage to your character. So the 4 exclamation points that she has will just outright knock Caden unconscious. And then the mayhem continues. So her third activation, given everyone who is in range and has aggro, is going to send her after Kang. So it will cost her 2 to move through there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now she's going to go ahead and roll her close combat attack again. Alright, here's her roll. So not as savage as the last one. Alright, Kang gets to roll a blue and 2 black. And thankfully, due to his defensiveness trait, he gets to re-roll the blanks into more blanks. So let's see how devastating this is going to be. So, She-Skin got 1 exclamation point. So that's going to be 1 automatic damage. And then she is going to do 2 more damage on top of it. So Kang's going to take 3 more damage. Alright, now, and for her last instruction, she's going after Kang again. She doesn't need to move. She is going to swing for 3 orange and a yellow again. Mercifully, not as great a roll. And Kang's defense. Alright, so she doesn't get to activate any switches. And the 1 success that she did get, I have enough blocks to go ahead and nullify that. So no damage from that last attack. Alright, so for our next activation, I think we go ahead and activate Caden. And we just get him onto the shuttle. So he moves 6, so we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he doesn't have enough on his first move to get past. So he'll stop there. And then on his second move, he'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just tuck back in the corner next to Agnes. And that will be his activation done. Now we flip our last AI card. And it is the Nox Hackers. Or initiative card, rather. Now we're flipping their AI card. Alright, so blue is highest aggro. So they're going to try and acquire target. Then they're going to shoot twice. And then they're going to move toward the person with the highest health. Sorry, I lied. That last instruction is move toward the closest person. Alright, so I went ahead and determined that Jazz is going to be the target of their frustrations. Normally it would have been Kang, but they... Oh, you know what? Actually, they actually can see Kang from here. This blue area reduces movement, but they can still see through it, and they can both target him. So let's see, their hacking range is 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they will both, they don't need to move, they're already in range, and then they will try to hack Kang twice. So they're going to get a yellow and an orange. Alright, so their hacking roll, get an exclamation and a success. Kang's biotech is just 1 black. With his defensiveness, though, actually that doesn't trigger on hacking. So we go ahead to resolution. They are going to stun Kang with the exclamation point, and then they will do 1 damage on that first attack. Now for the second attack, and Kang's defense. Alright, so their 1 success, we go ahead and block, and then they can't stun him again. And so now then, they are going to go ahead and move as close as they can to him. Actually, it's an acquired, so they just want to move in range, and they're already in range. So he's actually going to stay where he is. So now the second one is going to do the exact same thing and try and hack Kang twice. So the first one, and Kang's defense roll. So Kang blocks their 1 success. Now the second roll, and Kang's defense. So that one will go through, and Kang will take 1 more damage. So all we've got left to activate is Kang. And I think he wants to take a little bit of retribution before stepping onto the ship. So he's got range 5 on his shotgun. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we do have one of those hackers in range. So we're going to go ahead and take a shot. He gets 2 blue and a free success. Now hackers get a black and a yellow for their roll. And the Nox leader, because we have... oh, actually we don't have 3 Nox units in play. So just a black and a yellow. Alright, so we did... Alright, so because of stunned, one of my successes go away. Remember, Kang has a free success. So I've got 2 successes, they have 1 block. So we're going to go ahead and get 1 damage on that Nox hacker. Right, and so the stun effect is gone, and for Kang's second action, we're going to go ahead and move him onto the ship. And he can move 5 spaces. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And just tuck him back in the corner next to Agnes. So next turn, that's going to give us 2 characters who we can save their activation. And they can very quickly talk to Agnes and get the shuttle to take off. Because we are deathly afraid of She-Skin. Alright, so the only character left to activate, since there's no more enemies, is our ally Vera Xandar. And she is just going to try as quickly as possible to get on this shuttle and take a double move. So that puts her there after moving 12 spaces. And that takes us to the bottom of the round. Alright, so at the very end of the round, the enemy get a reinforcement token. And then they're going to spend 3 of them to deploy the Nox Spec Ops. Alright, so 1's deployed there, and then 1's deployed there. Alright, so that's the very bottom of the round. We've handled all the reinforcements. Just to give a quick recap, that was an absolutely brutal turn. Here's the board state. We have the heroes desperately trying to make it to the shuttle before She-Skin destroys them all. I think we might be able to do it, as long as She-Skin does not activate first in turn 6, or in round 6. So let's go ahead and start the round. Alright, so we're at the top of round 6, and because the alert level is at level 4, the enemies get to go first. And first up will be the Nox leader. numbers. Alright, so they're going to try and acquire the target with the highest aggro, shoot twice, and then acquire target the closest person. Alright, so the highest aggro person that they will be able to see will be Jazz, and this guy only needs to move one space in order to do so. And now he's going to try and shoot her twice with the combi rifle. Alright, so with the combi rifle, they get 2 yellow and an automatic success. Jazz gets to defend with 2 black dice. Alright, now the Shazvasti is going to have some switches. So for 2 exclamation points, they get to add another success. So they're going to get 2 successes for this roll. But Jazz rolled 2 defense dice, and or 2 defense symbols rather, so no damage. But now it's going to take its second shot. And Jazz's defense. Now she only got 1 save that time. It's going to reapply the switch again, so it's going to get 2 successes. So Jazz is going to end up taking 1 damage on that one. Alright, and then for the last instruction, it's going to acquire target the closest, which is still Jazz, and it's already in range, so it's not going to move. So now we're going to move to the second Shazvasti leader. And so it's going to need to get to this space in order to shoot. And it's got a move of 5. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now it's going to shoot twice. So 2 yellow and a free success. Alright, and Jazz's defense. It's cocked. Alright, so it's going to spend those 2 exclamation points to get another success. So Jazz is going to take another damage. Now for its second roll. And Jazz's defense. And so this time it doesn't have enough to activate its switch. So it just gets the 1 freebie and Jazz blocks it. And just like the other Nox leader, it's going to acquire target Jazz, and she's already in range. So that is the end of the Nox leader activation. So for our first activation, we're going to go ahead and activate Vera and just get her onto the Stalker. So she is just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And just sit there and be happy as a clam. Alright, next enemy activation. Alright, it's the Nox Spec Ops. So they are going to move next to the closest, attack the closest, move next to the closest, and then attack the closest again. Alright, so we'll start with the one that's next to Jazz. Right, and now functionally it's going to try and shoot her with the combi rifle twice. And it rolls a yellow and an orange and it gets a free success. So there's its roll. Then Jazz's defense roll. Now it doesn't have enough for a switch. But it did roll success, and it gets the free one. So Jazz is going to take 2 damage on that one. So now the second shot. And there it just has the free success, which Jazz blocks. So overall, she's just going to take 2 damage. Now, the next guy is going to close in on Uma. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's going to do the same thing and shoot her twice. So its first combi rifle shot. Uma gets a blue and a black for defense. Alright, so the Shazvasti has a free success plus the one that it rolled. Not enough for switches though. So Uma will block one and she'll take 1 damage. And for the second shot, and Uma's defense. Right, so on that one, it's going to have enough exclamations for the switches. So it's going to get another free success, so 4 total. Uma, however, rolled 3 blocks, so she's only going to take 1 damage from that second shot, so 2 damage total. Okay, next for the heroes, we're going to go ahead and activate Jazz. And I think all we want to do with her is move her onto the shuttle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll get her onto the ship. And then now for her second action, we're going to move her again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And block line of sight to Kang. Now next, because of the synchronized rule, we're going to activate Billy next. And Billy has a blazingly fast speed of 8. And all we're going to do is double move him onto the ship. I was going to move Billy off camera, but this is actually important. So I wanted to show this sequence of events. So for his first move, he can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then when he gets here, it takes 2 movement points to get past this Shazvasti. And you can't end on an enemy space. So on his first move, he's actually stuck staying here. So we'll go ahead and move him there. And then for his second move, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it would cost him 2 more points to move through Uma. And he can't stay on her space. So he can only get as far as the door. Which, that is unfortunate, because we may have to launch without him, and there's some negative consequences for that, because I don't think we can afford to stay on the board for a whole nother round just for Billy. Alright, so next enemy activation. It's the Nox Hackers. And there's their AI card. Alright, so they are going to acquire target highest aggro, shoot highest aggro, acquire target closest, and then shoot the closest. Alright, so this first guy is going to move here. And even though his line of sight is obstructed to Kang, he's going to use his hacking attack, which ignores line of sight. So that's as far as he's going to move. And then the second instruction, he's going to go ahead and hack Kang. So for their hacking roll, they get a yellow and an orange. Kang's biotech is 2 black. And they don't have enough for a switch, and Kang survives the attack with no damage. Right, so now for the next instruction, it's going to acquire target closest, which is going to be Billy. So it doesn't need to move because it's already in range of its hacking attack. So now it's going to try and hack Billy. So here's the Shazvasti hacking roll. And Billy rolls 1 black for BTS. So, unfortunately, Billy will get stunned and take 1 damage. Right, so now it's time for the heroes to activate, and I think we want to get off the board. So we're going to go ahead and activate Uma, and she will move next to Agnes, and then for her second skill, she is going to interact with Agnes. And so when you interact with Agnes, both of the clamps were released already. So the stalker takes off, which tells us to read this. And because the stalker has taken off, the mission is now over. And we go ahead and see what kind of loot that we got. So everyone's going to get an upgrade point because we rescued Vera. We get another one because Agnes has not been removed from the game. We saved her. Remotes are not counted for this one, so we'll get another chit for that. We will end up getting a consequence for Billy. So Billy's consequence. So it's the end of the game, so that doesn't really do anything other than give him -1 wound until he gets repaired. So I'm going to go ahead and clear off the table, and then we will go into the after mission phase. Alright, so I've cleared everything away, and we're back for the ship phase of the game. Before we dive into that, though, I did want to correct a mistake that I realized I made. When I was preparing for this clip, I read the latest version of the FAQ, and when you start a campaign game, your characters do not start with specialty cards. You earn your first specialty card at the end of the first mission. So that was a mistake I made. I'm not going to go back and reshoot all of the hours of footage. To compensate for that, there were specialty cards that I was about to give myself as rewards, but I'm not going to dole those out for this mission. I'll save those for the next mission. So starting from mission 2 onward, everything should be balanced. But now the first step of the ship phase is loot distribution. So everyone who participated in that last mission, since we had completed all of our objectives, they're going to get 3 intel packs that they can spend on upgrades, and I'm just using a die to represent those. And then any equipment that they have, they can redistribute it freely if they don't want it. Another mistake that I realized that I made, and I'll be sure to put a subtitle in the video, when Caden opened his loot box, any loot that does not have a backpack symbol does not take up a slot. And so also auto medkits don't take up a slot in your backpack. So this was actually never discarded. At this step though, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Ken for his heavy shotgun. And next, we're going to spend our intel packs. So let me grab those cards, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, so starting with Jazz, she's going to spend her 3 intel packs to purchase a defensive hacking device. So this is actually really strong. For her BTS, it gives her a black die and 2 automatic shield symbols, as well as helping buff all of the hackable members of her team. And because it has an arm or a head slot, you can actually equip it wherever you've got free space. And since she doesn't have head armor, we're going to go ahead and equip that immediately right there. Moving over to Kang. Kang's going to spend 2 of his points for a repeater. And this will allow Kang, while he has this in his backpack, Jasmine can declare hacking actions from him as the source of the attack. So that's going to be helpful, giving her some range without putting her in danger. And then for his last point, he's going to go ahead and purchase a 3D printer library for the Defiance. And this will let us make engineering rolls to go ahead and cure our remotes. Since Billy does have a consequence, we needed this in order to try and get Billy back to full strength. So we'll go ahead and put that down there. Moving on to Caden. Caden is going to spend all 3 of his points to buy kinematic armor. Now, it's not any stronger than the armor that he already has, but it gives him a new switch that might be useful. So this is going to replace his tactical armor. And now tactical armor could go in his inventory if I wanted it. Since it does the same exact thing as the kinematic armor, we're just going to go ahead and remove it from the game. And then lastly, for Uma, very similar to Caden, she's going to spend her 3 points and get skirmisher armor, which again, it's the same defense as her tactical armor, but it gives her some maneuverability that's pretty awesome. So we're going to go ahead and replace her tactical armor and remove it from the game. Right, so next up, we're at the crew distribution phase, and this is where you decide what part of the ship your crew members are going to be at. So for our HVT from the last mission, she is an engineer, so we're going to go ahead and put her in the workshop. And what that allows us to do is then use her Defiance ally card, which gives us an engineering role, which in a little bit we'll be able to try and heal Billy, thanks to her being there. Now, our pilot, Agnes, we're going to go ahead and put her in the bridge, which lets us use her ally card. And this will give us an ability during the next mission, thanks to her being on the bridge. So we've activated that. Next, Jazz will also go to the bridge because that will allow her to write software so she can learn new programs. But everyone else is going to go to the training room. And this will give us a series of effects for the next mission. So first, Uma. Whenever someone is making an attack roll with a light weapon, they get to re-roll a yellow die, which is pretty awesome. Then for Kang, Characters can reroll one die from their attack rolls when using AP ammunition. So it's a little... it's not going to trigger all the time because you need to get AP ammunition out of a loot box, but it may come into play. And then with Caden, if no enemy has line of sight, characters can add 2 additional movement points, which that'll be awesome. Anytime you can move a little bit quicker, that's going to help out the team. And now, had Jazz been able to go to the training room, she would have granted us this ability. But because we need her to write software, we're not going to be able to make use of her ally abilities, so we'll just set that to the side. Alright, so now we're to the sick bay and workshop phase. So if any of the characters had consequences and we had a doctor in the doctor space, we'd be able to make a doctor roll and try and heal a consequence off of them. But since we have the 3D printer library and we've got an engineer in the workshop, we get to make an engineering roll to try and heal Billy. So we're going to roll an orange and see what we get. It's a blank face, so unfortunately Billy still has his consequence. You only get to make 1 roll per instance of an engineering roll that you have. You can earn potentially more rolls later, but right now we've only got the 1 attempt. Alright, so now this would be the specialty acquisition phase. So had I not screwed this up for this game, this would be where the characters would earn their first specialty card or earn additional specialty cards. And I'll put a little chart up on the screen. There is a cap to the level of the specialties that you're allowed to know. So for mission 1 and 2, you're only allowed to know level 1s. And then starting at mission 3 and 4, you can know level 2s. And then 5 and 6, you can learn level 3s. And then 7 and 8, you can start learning level 4s. We've already got specialty cards, so we're going to effectively skip this phase right now. And that takes us to the write code phase. So Jazz has 2 software samples that she can spend. Now, she could... so all of these software cards have upgraded versions on the back that all have a software cost. So if any of those had an upgrade cost of 2, she could go ahead, spend those samples, and upgrade those. But what I'm going to do is buy her the completely new Counter-Strike Demon program. So when you're the target of a hacking action, you can use your hacking roll instead of your BTS value, which is pretty awesome. And we're going to go ahead and equip that to her defensive hacking device. Alright, so there is one more phase of the ship part of the game, and that would be some of your specialty cards. It doesn't affect us now, but some of them might have an ability where you have to rotate the card and exhaust it. And if you used an ability like that, this is where you would unexhaust those cards to get ready for the next mission. Again, we don't have anything like that on the table. So effectively, we skip that phase. And that brings us to the end of campaign mission number 1 for the core box set. Let me go back down to my computer desk, and I'll give you my final thoughts, and we'll wrap up. Alright, so if you made it this far, I definitely want to thank you for sticking through. I know it was a long video. My overall thoughts. So I had an absolute blast playing this game. I'm personally a longtime fan of Infinity. I've been playing since second edition. Back when we had badly translated rules, and Corvus Belli has come a long way. And this experience, honestly, for me, is the capstone of everything that they've put out thus far. It feels like Infinity. They've done a really great job of taking that three-dimensional tabletop wargame experience and then turning that into a two-dimensional board game without losing too much of the feel and the flavor in that translation. Now, unfortunately, this game, as of right now, was Kickstarter exclusive. I hope that in the future, especially once we're past COVID, that they reconsider launching this, as a retail product, or at least maybe doing a future Kickstarter campaign where they will allow people who, maybe are in the board gaming community a chance to pick up this product. It plays as an awesome board game, and it makes a really great segue into their wargaming products as well. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Also, let me know, when I was editing this video, I tried really hard to catch all of the mistakes that I made so that I could correct them on screen. But I am absolutely certain that there are probably additional mistakes that I made. So please let me know down in the comments so that I can fix them for future videos. But yeah, let me know what you thought. Let me know if you like the game, and stay tuned to the channel. I'll be working on episode 2, and until next time, keep slaying the Grey Hobby Warriors. I'll see you in the next video.